Welcome to episode 41 of the Corey Shepherd podcast. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. Welcome to all the new listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in on your favorite podcast app. It's everywhere now. And on YouTube, thanks for everybody who's been subscribing and liking the videos. Well, not so much videos. We get into video at some point, you know. Or you're going to make me have to go and trim now every week. I'll go around and try and sort myself out to be on video. All right, we'll fix it. People say video is video, right? How was everybody week? I hope everybody had a safe week. Everybody was good. Everybody still practicing the right things. We washing hands, we social distancing, wearing masks, everything we could do until we get something looking like a vaccine coming in these streets. Because I ain't sure what happened with the vaccine now, but hopefully at some point it come. I don't know how people feeling about it. Like a lot of people are saying they can't wait for the vaccine. Some people saying they ain't taking that vaccine regardless of what happened. I mean, to jump into some of the news, I saw one of my favorite boxers passed away this week. Marvelous Marvin Hagler, one of the greatest of all time. And he's one of the people make me like boxing. He was just fierce looking. He looked like if he hit you, you're going and go down. And I remember like Hagler Hearns, I see it making the wrongs on the internet again. If you like boxing and you like fighting and things, just take in that fight. Hagler Hearns is one of the best fights I ever see. Hearns was a real... He was hitting hard, you know what I mean? He had a punch. When you watch his legs, how skinny and thing it looking, but boy, later on in the fight, Hagler had the man kind of laughing and dancing around during it. It was funny. But what make me remember that is like Hearns made a post saying how Hagler called him earlier in the week and say he just get the vaccine and he wasn't feeling so great and he was looking for recovery. So people trying to link it to the vaccine is why Hagler. Listen, I ain't no medical man, you know. I don't know what it is. The people say the vaccine's safe. I don't know which part all vaccines will come from. Like people saying it's a cheap vaccine, a bootleg thing, and we're waiting for the Moderna vaccine. I don't know. I don't have all the information, but I don't know what you all feel. What you all feel? You all take any vaccine as soon as it's reached, regardless of where the vaccine come from, or the anti-vaccine. It's too much for me to keep up with. But rest in peace to Marvin Hagler, Marvelous Marvin, one of the greatest boxers of all time. Now, before we get into the issues here, right, or the issues of the week, what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago right now? What is the situation with the weather? I don't want to stay in the weather too long here, but this is not supposed to be dry season. It's like heavy rain. I don't know if all are experiencing the same thing, but what isn't she going to say it's heavy rain every single day. So I'm waiting to hear what Wasser's saying about reservoirs being low and them kind of thing. And I'm following that closely here. That whole story with Wasser, because as we say in a few episodes before, and if you're following the news, you're seeing it where Wasser basically in wind-up mode. They're going to come up with the new waste company, water and sewage treatment entity. So more articles coming out because Watson Duke basically come out and say Wasser, then the war part, and you know, the response coming to it. And I've seen an article in The Guardian now popping up. This is by Annalisa Paul. So it says former senior manager at Wasser, Ken Mahabir, yesterday refused to comment on the allegations that there were billions of dollars in unauthorized salary and overtime payments during his tenure at the utility, a matter which has now been referred to the police service for investigation, right? So they're going to go real far, right? Because now the police investigating billions of dollars in losses at Wasser. Now, the thing about this, it's like everybody know these things was happening all the time with Wasser. Everybody know about overtime and how Wasser scheduling their work to make sure they maximize overtime. And it's not really surprising to me in any way that people being paid for not doing work or people who on unauthorized salaries, and it maybe the figure in the billions might be surprising, but if you do that long enough over time, it will add up. People, you know, the thing about it is when you get through with a scam with small money, the scam will just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and them men go and go through it. So I mean, salute to everybody who in Wasser, yes, and only get through with billions. But listen, the effects of that on our economy, it coming in. I keep talking about this over and over. We're going to see some changes in this economy that I ain't think nobody ready for. Now, even the people who setting the policies, I ain't think they're ready for what is going to happen in this country. And when that Wasser restructuring and change come, we might be well into it by then, but boy, we're going to feel it, because imagine where the public sector the employees' health account and only earn based on how much they produce, it's going to be a whole different world here, man. I mean, I don't want to say too much about the crime thing because hopefully it don't change into that. Maybe we will get more innovative, start more businesses, see more entrepreneurship, more little side hustle. Which, I mean, I had to admit that I see a lot more of that during COVID times here. Like simple things like delivery. When you look at the few fast food companies that used to deliver, if you had to order, you really have very limited options here. But you see now plenty apps come out. Well, Drop was always here, Drop Taxi, but they have Drop Food, which pretty efficient. Hello Foods, real good, them doing Popeyes and Burger King. But I also find like they have a lot of, I don't know if it's micro entrepreneurs or caterers or whoever it might be, that you could just find on Instagram and they're delivering your food for you and everything. Like, I remember last year, Valentine's. Stacey and I had planned to, we said we staying home. That would have been last year, boy, a year before. Yeah, last year, because February last year, COVID wasn't taking over on it yet. So we planned a little evening home with a little seafood boil and we called the people to deliver the thing. But here now, up to this day, the people still never reach. we end up eating Burger King or Popeyes or one of them self-denied because the fella, we home hungry, waiting. I mean, they were supposed to deliver about 6, 6:30. We start calling about 7, 7:30. And the man is basically like, oh, go, I done pass Shogunus already. I forget only I done reach quite a by Grand Bazaar. I'll be back down the road by about 9:30. I was like, homie, forget. Let me do better. Let me do put yourself through this. But last week, I found another company. Oh, God, I wish I could give the people some credit. I think it's TT Kitchen. Boy, I'm terrible at this. I can't remember the people's name. But they did a seafood boil, and listen, that thing was real good. They deliver on time, not just delivering on time, they were very like customer service friendly, or what you call that, like customer friendly. They went out of their way to keep me updated as to what happened with the delivery, what time they will be there. So many different times they say thank you for choosing us, and I find it was real good that the customer service was up to that level. But then when we get the food was really, really good. Then people seafood boil. No, I don't find it. Hold on. Let me find this thing because I can't tell you about it and don't tell you who's the people. TT Lunch Kit Seafood. TT Lunch Kit. I think is the name of the people that are saying hold on like you're on the phone. But TT Lunch Kit, that is the name of the company. Salute to them. They do a real good job. Delivery on time. The delivery driver was real cordial. You could do an online transfer, so I didn't have to deal with cash at all. Even when I did half up front and then the next half when they came. I think it's once you order over 500, they're asking you to pay down half on it. That's reasonable to me. But listen, them people know how to season that down to the core. It was real good. And I find it not cheap, but it's decent value for money because I ordered 2 of them for me and Stacey. And both of us were only able to eat one, so we had one in the fridge just to bust up some other time. But I know I read quite there. I was talking about Wassa. Maybe the hardship that the country going to face, all the entrepreneurship people is always tell us that, what they say, boy, necessity is the mother of invention. So we're going to go into a period of necessity here when them Wassa changes come, and maybe it's going to lead to us being plenty more entrepreneurial and getting ourselves out there. So on the topic of entrepreneurship, I want to start where I usually finish, right? By saluting another podcast that I find online here, local guys. The name of the thing is the Randomish Podcast. So it's random-ish that they're talking, and it's true. Now, these men are the most random. You have to find it on YouTube, right? Randomish. And put plenty SSSSSH, and you'll find it. And listen, them men, something about them, addictive. When you listen to them, them men, hard to turn off. Now, remember that the name is Randomish, right? And they guest driven. So the types of guests that you will see real ranging. Like you're going to see Mutex and London Zessa, and the last one I watched with them was Trevor Sayers. Now, I know Trevor Sayers is a polarizing kind of figure, but when we're talking entrepreneurship, it's hard for me to talk about that without talking a little bit about Trevor Sayers. Like when I lecture in marketing especially, and entrepreneurship, to be honest, I usually use Trevor Sayers as an example a lot. Now, that's get the class upset at that point in time, but at least they're awake. Most of the time is we sleeping. But My point about Trevor Sayers is that he understands marketing better than the average person like myself who went to university and sit down to learn this, that, and the third. The man understands his demographic very, very well, like who he trying to market to and how to message to them and how to language his message. I struggling with that. Like I trying to market this podcast and I try to figure out, okay, who is the average listener? What should I say? How should I promote this? Whereas Trevor Sayers has come out outright and talked to the people who most likely to buy from him, his target group, right? So he's, like I tell my classes, if you have a fibroid problem, you're going to look for a doctor with white coat and stethoscope. But if you have fry ball, chances are you're looking for Trevor Sayers. And as a man, if you have a prostate problem, you're going to find Dr. Sau and these first experts. If you have a prostrate problem, or if you have a prostrate at all, you probably let it know by Trevor Sayers and looking to see what you have. So he was on that randomish podcast. And listen, forget everything you see about Trevor Sayers before, right? I know the videos and things. Some of them, it turned me off for him too. It had a few that he do. I really just stop using them as an example. I say, well, he going too far. Because he's chased the viral moment. I don't care what he says. He understands that idea of going viral and what it probably does for business and for his own notoriety and awareness and everything. But he's go too far. We could agree on that. But like take a little half hour, whatever time they have on YouTube, and watch that man video. Now it's jokes from out the gate, right? Because Trevor say, he different. He's a different kind of guy. But I do find that he gave a lot in terms of entrepreneurship and the importance of working for yourself and focusing on making money. And I find it was hard to turn away from, as that's the case with most of the interviews with our randomish podcast, because them guys funny, but they bring in some content that I find really, really very useful. So when you get some time, go and take in that, and take in the one with Trevor Sayers in particular. For my audience, I know y'all might want to take in Muti X and thing. If you're into that, check it out too, because it is very funny. But if nothing else, just take in Trevor Sayers and listen to his take on entrepreneurship, and it's really, really very good. Now, as we get saluting people, let me just salute everybody up front one time. I want to salute some guys who start a company by the name of Musical Instruments of Trinidad and Tobago. Mitco is the name of the company, right? So I'm reading from Loop TT. It says a new steel pan manufacturing company will be operational in the fourth quarter 2021. The company Mitco will produce a full range of high quality steel pans to supply growing demand both locally and internationally. Mitco is the brainchild of Akua Leith, the artistic director and conductor of the National Steel Symphony Orchestra of Trinidad and Tobago. He's a Fulbright Fellow and graduated from North Illinois University with a Master's of Music in Conducting with emphasis on steel pan for performance. He also holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of the West Indies. Leith has played and conducted tours throughout Europe, Asia, North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. He's also a steel pan teacher. Via a press release, he says that he envisioned a full-service pan ecosystem that would provide year-round employment in the production and craftsmanship of steel pans. He quoted as saying, "I've had this idea for a while now, but was very protective of it until I felt I could collaborate with a team who shared the same vision and values as I did." He approached the Haddad brothers, longtime supporters of the steel pan, and together they created a team to implement Leith's vision. I had to salute this, right? Because this is maybe a pet peeve for me, especially as we get into this point where we all knew, every scholar in this country knew that somewhere around 2020, we will be faced with oil and gas no longer being our biggest draw, our biggest economic earner. And we quickly got to that point by 2020 where production is lower. I mean, the oil price starting to catch up and thing, but it's pretty clear. It's not going to be the future. We need a future. And sadly, where we should have an industry producing pan and branding our country and branding our pan, even if we have multiple brands going out there, we should have started that from the time pan was invented, right? And get our patents and get our processes right. And listen to Black Stallion, how many grams of steel take to make a base pan. When he that song really encapsulates what I'm trying to say. Where we don't really have a process. We have agreed on who are the founders, the the originators, the innovators. It's one of them things, boys. It's bothered me a lot. And I feel like, steel pan being one of the newest invented instruments, or at least it used to be when they was teaching me that in school, but that probably changed too. We had to be the owners of that. We had to be the owners of not just the pan itself, but the process for making pan, the factories for making pan, the teachers, all the services surrounding steel pan. But for some reason, we're not there. So salute to Mr. Lee for taking that step. I'm very happy to see that that's being done. I can't wait for the last part of 2021 to start seeing a production line, a standard way. Like, I never even knew that the layout of pans could be so different from one panyard to the next. Like, if I pick up a guitar anyway, I could play the guitar. Well, you know how I play, right? But anybody could play the same guitar, whether it's Gibson, Fender. It's pretty standard how a guitar is tuned. Whereas with pans, it's different people. In Despa's panyard have a different kind of lineup and arrangement of the notes than a different panyard. And boy, listen, if somebody could help us standardize that, and even if it means Despas have their own brand of pans that they sell with their own layouts and their own tuning, and Renegades have their own style, why not? Why we not there yet? Why we not at the point where we are the forefront of the industry and we teach another? I no knock for me on China or Japan or whoever making pans too, but let us be the premium provider of steel pans. Let us own the patent. So even if somebody wants to do a cheaper version, we still earn from it over time. And like, I remember this battle going on with the G pan and the PHI pan or 5 pan with Kenneth Copeland. And coincidentally, like, they have a fella. Maybe I should, when I get things back on track, I hoping I could get a guy. There's a guy by the name of Jomo Watus. I'll see if I could get to talk to Jomo. I don't go by Jomo and thing. Jomo ain't coming out to your house, but Jomo is a special guy. We our companies, we do market research and things, right? So we were doing some work for Kariri. He used to give a grant for people. I think his I2I was the name of the competition. Idea to Innovation or something like that. And we had get approved as one of the companies to do the market research for the people who do the inventions, right? And we meet a fella named Jomo Watus who ended up selecting us to do his research. At that point in time, he had something called the Jomo Watus Exercise Bike Mower. He patented that thing. I don't want to copy the man thing now. But in meeting him and doing the research for that, we end up going by him and learning his own journey. He started off as a aeronautic engineer. I hope I'm saying that right. He used to fix airplane engine. So he's an engineer around planes. I hope I get that right. But Jomo is a very bright, very, very interesting guy. But when you go home by him, the amount of different patents he have and trademarks, the man does everything the right way. He have a Guinness Book of Record for the biggest instrument. He had made a huge pan that was covering all the octaves that a grand piano could cover. And listen, Jomo, he's an interesting dude overall. Now, Jomo is 80-something years old. Jomo is no young boy, but he has more energy than me and you put together. And when you hear his stories about his work done to create pans, and he always talks about this. He say, we so oil dependent that even the national instrument made from oil drums. Listen, when that floor me, boy. When I tell myself, let me diversify away from oil and use carnival and use pan as one of the ways we diversify. He say, yeah, but if you're making that from oil drum, you're back in the same problem. You're stuck in the morass. So he had was en route to developing a process where you could just take sheet metal, which, I mean, it sounds so simple when he say it, and have a standard, like a template for a pan. So you have a machine that just presses out pans, and then you could do the fine tuning and stuff after all of them pressed out. And I talking about, this is mostly 10 years ago, I talk doing that work with Jomo. So, I mean, he doing his part. I know Dr. Copeland doing his part as well. But glad to see that somebody make this step of going into manufacturing, to create some jobs, create some opportunities, and also to preserve the history of what we have. You know what I mean? Preserve what we built, what our ancestors built and left for us there. And I hope that when they do it too, they preserve the legacy of the people who have been around pan, the Fillmores, God bless his soul, the Bugsy, the Ray Holman, people who contribute to it as players, people who contribute to it as innovators who come up with the idea and so on. So that's on the pan there, right? But this where I was really happy. I feel liked to see an article like that. So I'm looking forward to the end of 2021. Now, as I mentioned, my boy Jomo as a 80-something-year-old man. I don't want to call certain people name on this podcast, and I just get very nervous very fast. But I see an article in the papers this week where a 80-something-year-old man was with a 17-year-old woman, and the man get charged. I don't want to make no mistake here, so let me dot my I's and cross my T's here, because all ain't gonna put me no problem. And it's anything good to take serious, they can make joke, but this whole podcast is to take serious, they can make jokes. So I'm going to go to the right source and do the right thing. I'm reading from the Newsday of Trinidad and Tobago. Thursday, 11th of March, an article written by Jensen Lavend. I hope I have that right, Jensen. Contractor Emily Elias has been charged with 2 sexual offenses against a minor and will appear virtually before participating magistrate on March 24th. The 84-year-old was charged late Wednesday night with sexual grooming and sexual penetration of a minor. According to charges, Elias, the owner of NH International, which has several contracts with the government, that is not today, that is a long time. That is not Jensen, that is me. Going back to Jensen. According to the charges, Elias, the owner of NH International, which has several contracts with the government, is accused with meeting with the 17-year-old girl between September 1st and November 30th. 2019, with the intent of grooming her for penetration. Boy, listen, when you read some of these things, it really sounds sad. Yes, I mean, the intent of grooming her for penetration. What the hell is wrong, old man? I mean, the thing about it is, like, sometimes you you watch these fellas and, like, we aspire to be like that, you know what I mean? Have companies that size and be making, well, I guess financially well off and he don't have to do nothing. He don't have to work for the rest of his life if he chooses not to, I'm sure. And he have generations that could make choices that whatever they want to do, wherever they want to be when they grow up. They want to be in the arts, they want to be on whatever you want to do, you could do. But and more so, like, for men, right? You're always, especially as a young man, you tell yourself, boy, if I have that kind of woman, I could get any woman. If I have that kind of money, you could get any woman you want. And you know what we think sometimes, fellas? This is just between me and the fellas. The ladies, step peg back. Don't get offended. That's what we think when we're young. Maybe when we old too. But this man could get anybody you want. And you go on, what's wrong with you? Why you get 17-year-old? And then the Guardian printed that businessman Emily Elias was granted $100,000 bail by a justice of the peace last night in connection with 2 sexual charges against a 17-year-old girl. So, I mean, he went in, they take the mugshots of the old man. To tell you the truth, is the first time I see what Emily Elias look like. I used to hear the name all the time. I didn't realize he was that old, like 84 years old either. I thought, when they said the name, I just assume as a younger person who running a company and stuff, but I don't know how involved he is in NH now, but past any construction site that the government's working on anywhere, and you're going to see a big NH on that sign outside. You know, they do the galvanized fence and they do a little sign telling you who working there. You're going to see NH on almost all of them. And throw your mind back, that's years going on now where them men have real good secure government contracts. I mean, so what's going on with you? That you had to find a little 17-year-old girl that's a child. Like, you go back to your mind when you were 17. Now, I had to ask some questions to her because it have child abuse and what they call it, sexual grooming and sexual penetration. But it's a kind of awkward way they write it. Like, they keep writing it saying grooming for penetration. So, which makes it sound to me like it had no penetration, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't know how, I guess from a legal standpoint, somebody will be able to say what exactly that is, but wherever it is, he on charges and he had an answer for them charges. So you will face the court and you answer for your actions. 17-year-old girl. I mean, me and nowhere near 85, I have that. And I trying to picture myself hanging around with a 17-year-old. Like, what are you going to talk about or do? But again, yeah, boy, some men out here, they take it. But, you know, outside of the nasty man thing, because I see a lot of people immediately went to social media to say, call rape. If it's statutory rape, call it statutory rape. But I saw some lawyers come on and break that down as well, that grooming and sexual penetration mightn't be rape. I don't understand how that works. Anything when you have a man, a grown man, with a 17-year-old, that sounds very, very rapey to me. But I also want to look at the shoe on the other foot. Me and this victim blaming thing, so that little girl needs to get the support she need and the help that she need to get through this. And he had an answer for them things, because I saw a lot of people saying, she put herself there. Even if that is the case, right? Because the thing about it is at 17, I could have made some decision. I could be an 84-year-old woman when I was 17 too. But you have to think that the law there for a reason. And the reason, at least in my life, is that at 17, you don't know nothing. At 17, I was so, when I look back now, the problem with me being 17 and maybe other 17-year-olds too is that you know so little, but you think you know so much that you put yourself in situations. And listen, at that age, you ain't want to hear your parents at all. I don't care what my father telling me or my mother. I want to do my own thing and experience life and make my own mistakes. But when you have people who manipulative and have all the years experience behind them and choose to see you and pull you in is a sad thing. So face your charges, brother. Come before the court, do what you have to do, and I hope that the full brunt of the law comes on him. Because I was even looking at always following my boy Joel Julian. I talk about him on this podcast all the time. And I think it was him who I saw post something about his bail compared to other people who would have gotten similar charges or other charges like little drug charges or possession. And the amount seemed low compared to some of them things. But I mean, I guess, all right, you play down as penetration and grooming, we will see where it is. On the flip side of this, I want to say that within all the child abuse we're talking about, I find like we ain't talking about elder abuse. This is an elderly man. It's like, who is making these arrangements? Because he not on these streets hanging out of school clothes. So he ain't hanging out by no school corner trying to find 70. Who is making these deals? Who's brokering these things? We had to find out about that too, because you see just how they charge you with abuse. They should charge whoever organizing these 17-year-old girls with him, charge them with abuse too. Because I can tell you, for me, at 17, I could have made some decisions. And if I choose to be that 80-something-year-old woman, my parents couldn't stop me. So I understand that while people talking about it online, that she could have made her own choice and she lined herself up. I wonder what she lined herself up for there. You know what I mean? What is you seeing that could make you attractive to a man, or attracted to a man who's 70-something? Only remember Anna Nicole Smith? Like, this story reminded me a lot of Anna Nicole Smith. Of course, it's a poor comparison, right? Because Anna Nicole was a grown woman. She could make her own decision and where the hammer fall, it fall. But Anna Nicole Smith was clearly a money play. And I find like situations like those, we should also remember elder abuse. That is abusing older people. Because, the old people used to say, my grandmother used to tell me all the time, once a man and twice a child. So when you reach, if ever the twice a child stage coming back, the second time had to be somewhere around 84, if you ask me. We can't be leaving the elderly to be so vulnerable, to be lured into these kind of situations, whether it is he have a broker dealing with the deal for him or... And, one of the other things too is, I know from experience that when you get catch, it's not the first time. You're liking young girls. That would be outright. And whether whether they 17 or 25, I find all of them is children compared to you. I mean, yeah, a grown person can make their own decision, but anytime anybody over 18 with a man, that person should get charged with elder abuse. Because what happens when two people, like if you're 15 and you have a little girlfriend and all you're doing thing, and the police find out, who's get charged? There? Both people getting charged? Because they will say statutory rape if you're under a certain age. I wonder how that is work if both people is get charged in them circumstances. But in circumstances like these two, both people could get charged. Because you see two of them is two children. You 70, you 84. Or he done reach back to child state. And they put this man mugshot. That man looks so sad in that mugshot. When last he must leave home and now he had to go police station and pose up for mugshot and them thing. But boy, it's one of them stories. It was just a very, very strange thing that come out of the blue last week. Is like, what? A big old man like you? But elder abuse. I want to table that. We had to figure out a way to put up something where these elders get. Now, we can't let our old people go down like that, where people could be using the old man. As a matter of fact, I have a song. I have a song to play. Now, I don't know. I mean, no problems. This song is not about nobody in particular. This song is just about elderly men who going around young girls. And I ain't talking about no teenage girl neither. I'm talking about a woman who reached the age of consent. And this is about young women looking for granny daddies. What is call them? Sugar daddies or grandpa daddies or zaddies, grandzaddy. This song is about them. This song is not about no person in particular. But it's so relevant. He's just 16 years short of 100 years old. Viagra have him hot. He old but he not cold. And I want you to know that soon he will die. We done pick his plot. I'll send him into the sky and then spend a lot, 'cause he has more money than I ever see. He's just 84 years old with one foot down in the grave. And he's got 84 years gold and plenty powder milk to spray. And we're so in love, he'll die for me anytime now, it's true. And I try to measure his love muscle. There's nothing to compare it to. And I want you to know that I'll pay your bill with your money. And when you get out of jail, update your policy. And baby, put me as the beneficiary. I done again, let me say. He's going to carry a damn joke too far. Again, the right thing is being done. Go and answer for your charges. You're looking for little girls. You're too old for that, yo. 17-year-old. I mean, at 84, every woman young to you, you could find a nice little something. 70 years old, everybody young to you. You got to go for a 17-year-old girl. You could find a, if you find a 75-year-old girl, you watching her like 25. Like how you watch a 25-year-old. Come on, son. Go and face your charges. You know what I mean? Them lost you there. And listen, as this case develop, I want to see if, as more information come to the fore, if he do more than just grooming, if they're going to come out and call it rape. Because this is an issue, because all the contracts that company have with the government going to start to get called into question very quickly. My man innocent until he proven guilty, and the company released something saying that he is innocent of all the charges. But we keeping an eye on the case, because if you're found guilty of any of that, I want to see what the government is going to do about all the contracts that NH International have. But we move on. And as we are done on the topic of 84-year-old men already, right? So let's talk about Kirk Franklin real quick. Somebody get Kirk Franklin. I don't know if you all follow this story, but Kirk Franklin get really very upset this week here. I don't know what happened between the general and his son, but the general get real upset. And you all know Kirk Franklin, right? The stomp guy. People wanna stomp. You remember him? The pastor, Kirk Franklin? Boy, Kirk Franklin's son, like, he get him upset. The man say you have a toxic relationship with his son. Let me play the clip so you can hear what is happening. Only get on pastor. Only get the man facts. Man to me cussing. No, Kirk Franklin. I watch Kirk Franklin on the Breakfast Club and thing. And the man always, I mean, is a priest, right? A pastor, right? So he always has some wise words. You're listening to him talking to Charlemagne. You're always trying to be the bigger man, both in person and when they start doing Zoom interviews. But boy, listen, when you see it come to family and thing, especially with your children and your parents and thing, it could get heated. You know what I mean? If we're being honest, sometimes with parents and children, like you didn't understand this when you were small, right? But now they're older. Right? Sometimes you really want to cuss up these children. If you just want to start I mean, yeah, that's some restraint, eh? But no, this boy is 33 years old, eh? And let me play his apology. In all fairness, let me play the apology too, right?
His son, named Kerryon Franklin. In May, he'll be 33. For many years, we have had a toxic relationship with him as a family. We've tried for many years through counseling, through therapy, to try to rectify this private family matter. Recently, my son and I had an argument that he chose to record. I felt extremely disrespected in that conversation, and I lost my temper. And I said words that are not appropriate. And I'm sincerely sorry to all of you. I sincerely apologize. I want you to know as a father that during that conversation, I called the family therapist and got that therapist on the phone to try to help. He never played that part of the recording. I'm not perfect. I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm trying to get it right. Please keep me and my family in your prayer.
All right, Pastor. All right, you're going to preach a more, but you know, one of the things I find funny, and it's in this era, I want to say generational, but it's not a generational thing. It's in this era. We sometimes try to hold people to a kind of level of perfection. Like if left up to me, the man had no apology to make, you and your son get away or they cuss up one another. How much of families we in? Let me be honest with one another. Where we see father cuss up son, people is get vexed, people is fall out. It's just part of growing up and part of loving people and family life. And I mean, I ain't saying it's the best way to deal with anything. And you hear him say himself that he tried to get the therapist on board. So I don't want to cuss up my son. You know what I mean? I hope it never come to the point. Let me put it out there one time that when he reach a big man, I just want to line with him. And I can't wait till he reach the age where we could sort of take a little drink and enjoy ourselves and enjoy our life. And I see his own family. I can't wait to see that. So I hope it never reached to that with me and him. But you had to hope that even if you have a moment like that, wherever I going through, wherever he going through, where one of we fly off the handle, you had to hope that two of us could resolve that for ourselves. And it don't have to be an internet thing. Imagine now I had to come now to do a public apology for how I talk to Zachary. Imagine Zachary had to do a public apology for how he talked to me. This era is just a strange time where them things concern, boys. Like, family matters is no longer family matters. Things that all of us grew up and see in our households and everybody good. You know, it has some people who in the household, them fall out and them cuss up one another. And them get back good now, and you know them don't talk to you. You and them don't deal again. It's just part of life. I don't understand this. Number one, putting people on such a high pedestal. So you will hear me talk about this on this podcast all the time. You see the things like your worship and your honor and the honorable rights. And if left up to me, we should drop all them things. Stop calling people honorable. People not honorable. People is doing, see, when some of these honorable men is do. You're shocked. We not really that honorable. All of us are just human beings having a human experience and we making mistakes as we go along. And we should be cool and comfortable to make them mistakes. And especially when the mistakes are not harming anybody else or harming yourself, more so I'm in support of that. And what two of them have as father and son, them clearly have those types of issues and Kirk trip off. But you go trip off from time to time. It's not to say it was violent or somebody get harmed. And I understand that some of the therapists out there listening saying, yes, but that is what leads it. Yeah, that's cool. But in that statement, in his apology, which I don't find he needed to make no apology to nobody else but his son. But again, we seem to be involved and he had to make an apology to the general public. It's the strangest thing. But he also said in that apology that, hey, talking to the therapist is something that we've been going through for a long time. We're going through issues. That is just part of life. And thank God, like I was talking to Neola this week, and I was telling Neola on her, went through her, I finished now, her boundaries coaching. And I would suggest to anybody, any issues you're having, don't hesitate to talk to somebody. The thing about talking to this somebody, right, is that a therapist is a professional. They don't. I have found that it's not like they're judgmental or they're just trying to help you discover what you're dealing with and discover ways of coping with it or overcoming it, if I could put it like that, right? It's very, very, as Neola and Simone would say, it's very gentle. And it's like what they're providing for you is a guidepost for you to find your own ways. Like somebody giving you a light in the darkness, you know what I mean? It's not them telling you what to do. And I find that real useful. So the fact that he referred to that, and that means that they're going down the right road already. So when I see instances like this versus where they could have that conversation, the son tape him and think, I would have get damn vexed to my son. Not just me and you follow, but now you record it and it's a public thing. I just can't take the public thing too much, you know. But situations like those and how two of them handle it, and I assume that they are going to, even if they continue down this path, they're going to go ahead to live healthy lives outside of one another, or hopefully they find some way to reconcile and make themselves good again. And we all been in toxic relationships before, whether it's with family or with loved ones or romantic relationships or even children. But one of the things I find is that they have ebbs and flows. You know, they have things where we good and we get along well and then we fall out and them things. What we had to stop doing as a society is having these people like him apologizing while we have people in our society now who, I mean, in 1 week, kill their whole family and then go and hang themselves. Listen, I say whatever, if all you have and all you fight and all you thing and is a cuss out, I rather that 100 times. And again, the therapist is going to say that one would lead to the other, but better all you argue and all you quarrel and thing. Like we used to argue and quarrel home plenty. I grew up in a house. By my count, the house had 13 people at one point in time. We used to argue, we used to fight, we used to quarrel. It's just part of it. But all of us are alive. And I didn't know nothing about therapy back then. I don't know if my parents was in therapy and thing. I doubt. Because two of them used to quarrel and thing. It's just happened. It's just, but nobody in dying. So I using this Kirk Franklin example to say, wherever you and your son going through, wherever you and your wife or you and your family and thing, I rather you find ways to talk that out, even if all you reach the point is a cuss out and thing and all you walk, go all your separate ways. Do that. Rather than it reach to the point where a next man I see this week there burn down a whole other people's house too. Like he locked the woman in a room and tried to burn the house down. And end up burning down the other houses around too. And it's like, what is going on? While a man like Kirk Franklin come out and apologize. Now, take it that one of the families we talking about here, nobody do exist in that family no more. Mother gone, father gone, children gone. And a whole community left to pick up the pieces. And I talk about this all the time here, you know, when we have stories like these where we get to come and talk about it for a little while kind of thing and say, you know what I mean, it happened and we sad and we this and we that. And we go back to some kind of normalcy. Normalcy is a word? We go back to some kind of normal, right? But the reality for the people who are affected by that, the relatives, the family members, the loved ones, the community itself, they will never forget things like that. Never. You grow up and you'll always remember that house where that thing happened. And again, is make me feel like we have to do better. We have to find better coping mechanisms. I have a guy trying to get on here, and I really like the way he breaks that down. I salute my guy Sule Dyer. And when he's on, he will talk about it. But you see, finding healthy coping mechanisms, and I'm talking particularly as men. Because we in a society where, when I talk about men in Trinidad, you could be under plenty pressure as a man, especially as I say at the beginning, where the economy getting harder, jobs not as easy to find. Them things could put an enormous amount of pressure on us, especially where you bear the financial burden for your family and things. Them things ain't no easy thing. But oh God, we had to find a way to cope better. I mean, talk things out, even if the talk get hostile. Leave it at a hostile talk and let you walk away and come back to the table another day. We can't be living in a way where it's a finality. Everybody had to go and then that's the end of that. We too many of these stories happening over and over for us to just continue to operate as is. Now to lighten the mood a little bit, because every time we talk about this is girl heavy, right? But I had to tell all you my story with Zachary where cussing is concerned. And I pay no more money for Zachary for therapy eventually, because when he come and hear all these stories I tell on this podcast about him, he gonna need some therapy. So I'm making my last saving 1-1 to see if I could pay for therapy for him when he get older. But now, in my household, as a man who, it's funny with cussing for me, right? When I talking normal, I think I cuss more than when I vex. When I vex, I don't really cuss nobody and thing. When I vex, it's hard for me to say anything. I don't like to talk too much when I vex. But I make a wrongs, and when I cool, I can talk. But when I talking casually, me and partners talking and saying, man, I cuss about every 2 words is a cuss, right? So the thing about it is, when you make a child, right? Or you have a child, people tell me stop saying, I make a child. I can't make him. But when you have a child, you have real good intentions to not do certain things in front of them. But as time go by, this might say me because like we be outside talking and we talking cool, not like Kirk Franklin and the boy. We just talking cool and as we hearing Zachary inside, like, stop the cussing. So this little boy is overexposed, right? So at this Stacy outside and the little children, he trying to play with the little children in the neighborhood, but he's a small boy and he's a new boy too. So you know how that go. Them trying to shake him off. Them is older children. They had a little squad they're riding with. Zachary can't keep up with them and they're riding. He's still mommy and thing. Them once he are wrong when they're playing their older children games, you know what I mean? So eventually, like, he followed them to the point where they decide to come and tell Stacy something. So from I figured out what happened, where they would come and say they don't want him behind them and them kind of thing, which is that's just growing up. You had to eat that, right? But Stacy tell me they come and say, Auntie, we turn to tell Zachary we want to play, and the games that we play, he too young for, and he still following us, and also he cursing. So I hear the story from Stacey, right? Stacey said the children come and say he cursing, talk to him. So I come inside. Now Zachary have a way, when you talk to him, I don't know if you all are the same issues with your children. I'll let her help me for those who are children longer than me. From the time I bring up something to Zachary and he know he in the wrong, that man whole the body is deflate. You ever see the blow up thing, like when you're passing by the road? What is called them thing? The I can't remember the name of the thing. Now the wind guy now who's blow up in the wind all over the place. When he on his normal, that's how he is, like that wind thing. He in go mode. Every minute is a dance, a spin wrong. And then when you tell him something he doing wrong, that man is just deflate. Like when you unplug that thing, he's deflate. Like every bone in the body going off. I said, Zachary, what did this happen with you and the children? Why children in the neighborhood had to come and tell me you cursing? Well, boy, the man deflate one time. Hey, Daddy, I know this would have happened. I know this day was coming. I said, boy, you're not dramatic. He said, I know this day was coming. I know this was going to happen. I said, no, I'm talking to you. Don't cry, don't think we talking. But he done start to cry and tears well. I was always telling him, use your words. If you're feeling sad, cry. But when you're done cry, talk to me. Explain to me what has happened. We ain't no beast. We had to talk out whatever it is and we here for you. I said, Zachary, he gathered himself and thing. He said, well, yes, I did curse. I said, Zachary, what you say? All of a sudden now he can't cuss again. He can't cuss no more. He said, well, I can't say it. I don't have the heart to say. I said, but it's more heart. Wait a more heart. You're cussing in the neighborhood. You're cussing people. He said, no, I didn't curse anybody. And he started crying. And I said, all right, let me calm down. Because I myself had to realize too, with a young child, you can't make, the joke I go make, you can't really make it with me taking them things to heart. I'm seeing you as a big old man. And so I say, all right, let me tell me cussing people and things. Let me hear his side of this story. So He eventually mustered it up and he tell me what he say. He said the F word. I said, Zachary, the F word. I said, well, boy, I tell him myself, I'll ass or something. He man said the F word. He gone all the way. I said, the first thing I think, right, which I'm starting to learn and to do better myself, but the first thing I say is Jesus Christ. Now I looking like the parents who just raising cuss buds. And I as a bad parent in the neighborhood, I started to study that one time. Now, that is not the best thing to study. I learned it. It's really, because my embarrassment is not the issue. But I was feeling embarrassed, feeling a real way. I said, boy, everybody watching me a kind of way. But and I tell him that too. I said, but Zachary, you have me now like boy, you know, parents in Israel trial and error. Yes, they really need therapy when they get big. You know? So I said, Zachary, what you cussing the F word for? I never hear him say that home, you know. I said, but he said, well, to tell you the truth, Daddy, I said twice. I said, but why are you just cussing? Hey, when people tell you how, when you see trend behaving a certain way, it's home they learn it from. Believe me, it's home they learn it from. It's true that he mother cuss. But the man say, he said twice. I said, but we cussing so far? What going on? He said, but I fall off my bike the first time, all of them laugh. So, I mean, I talked to him and I was like, I let him know, you know, you have some punishment. You have to deal with them things. You have to go and apologize to them kids or whoever else was wrong. You have to do that. I not doing that kind of thing. You make a mistake, you go and you face it and you apologize. And he did. I gave him a lot of respect for that. After that, he messed up the thing and he went and he told them he's sorry and it wouldn't happen again. And he tell me he's sorry too and it wouldn't happen again. And then that was kind of like the end of that. You know what I mean? That I don't really... and I mean, if you listen to this podcast, you know me well enough. You know, every now and again I have to say, oh, cuss bud. What's the scene? You're going to cuss up the trend on them again or you're going to play... And then he's deflate again like the blow up man. As I remember, I can't make certain joke with him. But point I'm making is overall... It's just one of them things with families. Stuff is happening. We're going to fall out. We're going to do wrong things. But we used to live in a world where we could privately deal with them things. And the people who are affected by it deal with it and move on. And everybody gets so much as second chances. And all of us here today. And everybody's smooth. Whereas in some cases, all of a sudden I had to be making an apology to everybody in the world for things what happened in my household or between me and my son. I know how it's going. But let me get Eddie here to help me take more of this heaviness here.
Oh gosh, I'm say, the fretting up of the hair I'm flexing. I'm say, the frowning up on me hair is wearing. Every day, them a cry me down, but I just don't have fun. All me want is the music all night long. Till the party done. Play the music, big and strong. 'Cause I just don't have fun. From the gun, country straight to town. Don't stop this jam. Pump me up with the music. Pump me up. 'Cause you know I'm addicted. Pump me up with the music. Pump me up. Live without it. Pump me up with the music. Pump me up. Start me whole body pumping. Pump me up with the music. Pump me up. All me know just a jumping. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
All right, so on to some better news, right? Better news here. Back on the international front. I'm a little all over the place today, but back on the international front. You know me and Versus. Every time something happens, I have to talk about it, right? It's only work with me. Versus TV, Swiss Beats and Timbaland. I had to say congratulations to them and salute to them because they sold Versus to Triller. And Triller being described as a TikTok competitor, right? And as an old man like me, I ain't know too much about TikTok. I on TikTok, but I just on TikTok to say on TikTok. Yes, I don't even open the app or check anything. Everything I see that happen on TikTok, I see it on Instagram, which is the old people version of that. But what I remember Triller for was, if you remember the Roy Jones and Tyson fight, Triller was the app that brought that fight. So, I mean, it was too long and all that. I think I talked about it on some episode here. They should have just get to the fight overall. But it seemed as though they see, you know, that whole idea of a battle and things seem to be their lane. And I guess they're right. It's a TikTok competitor because a big part of it is the music and those type of short form videos and that kind of thing. But I'm eager to see how it changes or how it evolves when it go on an app like Triller, because what I think it allows them to do is, well, of course, centralize the format and find a better way to present it. Because Instagram was a little bit, it wasn't the best thing. Because you can't hear the music when you're listening to it on your phone. I hate to listen to music on my phone like that. You had to put it through a Bluetooth speaker or something. But now you can't do nothing else on your phone while you're watching Versus. And I remember they used to have it on Apple TV. I was never able to get it on Apple TV. So what I used to end up doing a lot was I would have it open on my phone and follow it there. But I would watch it on YouTube, which is somebody showing Versus there. And I mean, that wasn't the best experience either. So hopefully on Triller, they give us a way of logging into the app, seeing it and listening to it in a better quality, throw it up on a Bluetooth speaker, and we could still chat and respond. Because to be honest, a big part of Versus is be the comments that are going on while the Versus battle happening. So congratulations to them. I think not just building something during this pandemic and being able to sell it to one of the big faster rising companies now in that .com space. But also to go as far as to give equity to all the people who appeared on it, including Beenie Man and Bounty Killer. You know, it was one of them things that you see Yankees do a lot. You know, them American artists is go find a little collaboration with a Jamaican artist, get yourself popping and girl dance music, get some bubbling then. And then you find that you don't hear from them again, whatever collaboration they was doing fade to black. They don't draw for the artists, they don't carry them on tour. So for them to do something, it would have been so easy for them to do a deal for themselves, number one, and benefit from it. Or cut equity to the bigger artists on the platform like Babyface and them and don't really say nothing to nobody else. Or even just do it for all the Americans who was on it and leave out Beenie Man and Bounty Killer, which to me, I mean, of course, I bias like hell, but it was the best Versus that we saw. So congratulations to them. I'm real happy for Beenie Man and Bounty Killer. I don't know what it means in terms of value, but it's a good gesture to give them the equity anyhow, which they could resell or keep and make it a part of their own asset base. So I was real glad to see that. And I can't wait to see what the next Versus brings, because I saw they advertised Raekwon and Ghostface Killer. I find they should have just pulled in a Wu-Tang Clan Versus. I mean, that would have lasted for about 4 hours. But if they could have get all the existing members of Wu-Tang together, and that's hardly a battle, but just play songs with that would be something else. Just to see them together, just to see the old 40 and 50-year-old version of these fellas back together will be good. But I'm looking forward to that Ghostface and Raekwon too. That should be a real good battle. And congrats to them. Congrats to Beenie Man and Bounty Killer in particular there. Real congratulations in this episode, boy. Congrats to the West Indies. West Indies win a series and whitewash people in 1 day and thing. I still didn't reach back the point where I could sit down and watch West Indies, stay down in the evening to say I'm watching them, or wake up early when they're on that side of the world. I'm not there yet. And I don't want to heavy decide neither, because so long I bad talk West Indies when I do watch them play that I don't want to be the one joining back now to watch and then they're falling apart. But salute to them guys. They are on a winning streak. Maybe I would just leave them alone and just comment on it when it happened. And I wish them the best and I hope they continue to do good. The whole place lighter. You ever notice that how sports is make the place? Them women don't like to talk about sports, right? But let me talk to all about sports a little bit. The whole place is feel lighter when your side winning. Now for clubs is a different thing, because all the way against one another where clubs concerned. But we generally, everybody's back West Indies, everybody's back Trinidad. So the places feel a little lighter when West Indies coming through and doing the thing, or our teams doing the thing. And again, no, you had to make a judgment here for yourself, right? Don't take my word for it. You need to go on Instagram, right? So salute to West Indies, right? Let me don't mix up these two issues. But at the same time, Trinidad and Tobago football, right? I keep talking about this World Cup qualifier because I'm excited, right? I always feel we could qualify for the World Cup, and we have a squad, we have a stable coach for a little while now, you know what I mean? But I see a post on Instagram. This post was on Monday, the 14th, what Monday was the 15th of March. So go to TTFA Football for me on Instagram and scroll through till you see a picture of Fenwick talking to the team, right? If you didn't see this in your group chat, something already. And I want you to zoom in on number 15. just zoom in. Wait, I have two number 15. Everybody's number 15. What the hell is going on, Jack? Want to take the uniforms again or something? Why everybody in the team? But when you see it, you will know which number 15 I'm talking about, right? Why is you so fat? Why you so heavy? You looking like me in these streets. What's going on with you? How you making the national? This man is a national team training. At least everybody around him looking like a footballer. Men looking relatively fit. You know what I mean? Men looking the part. But Fenwick is talking directly to Fat Man. What Fenwick could be saying to Fat Man? I don't understand. And I see him when he come on in the game against the States, looking heavy. And now, I mean, this man coming on the field looking like frozen condensed milk. How he going and play? What's his position? Because I see him playing at left back the last time. And I'm trying to figure out if this is what we're sending. And, all right, okay, so the first qualifier is against Guyana. You getting fitter as we going along. Like, I could expect to see you looking fitter and thing while the campaign going on. Because you ought to be a real special talent, I think. For a coach to watch you, listen, I looking just like he. So I know how coaches watch me. Man is like, yeah, hold our bench. Bring some water for the rest of the team. You know what I mean? How you make any national team? You ought to be a real special player. You ought to be excellent. Better than average. You ought to be top notch. For a man to watch you and keep you on the team. Like he fatter than Fat Ronaldo. So he had to be better than Fat Ronaldo. Boy, listen. But again, I'm not saying nothing negative about this side. We're gonna beat Guyana, and we're gonna go through. I mean, I think it's a couple. Yeah, with this, then you're placed into a group if you get past here, and then from that group you go to the Hex. So we're gonna get through. By then he's gonna be slim and trim, right? Let me give them the benefit of the doubt. And I don't know why everybody's number 15 on the team, but go to TTFA Football Instagram. Look for the one where Fenwick talking to some fellas in white and check out number 15, the big ooms. But I guess it's equal opportunity, right? Everybody had an equal chance, so let me get the man a chance. Let's see, maybe he touches real good. Now, equal opportunity is a funny thing when you think about it. Because I saw an article going around in the papers this week that I wanted to highlight. Because I feel this woman pain reading this article. And this is something I've been saying coincidentally for a long time. About our education system, especially where GATE concerned, right? So hear me out. The article is from the Express and Ramdas on the 13th of March, right? It said a tearful mother is asking education minister to investigate why her daughter didn't obtain a national scholarship as she has a record of excellence and aced the 2020 CAPE exam. Sabita Mahes, 50 from Tunapuna, said that her 19-year-old daughter Shania Ramsumer was focused on attaining a scholarship because her family is unable to fully fund her university education. The people at Lakshmi Girls Hindu College achieved a full certificate of grade 1s in pure maths, physics, chemistry, and Caribbean studies. I couldn't pass none of them things. Mahes said, coming from a poor family, she could not pursue that dream of getting an education, but she placed her hopes and faith in her daughter who persevered and made sacrifices striving for a scholarship. Quote, I don't know what more she could have done because she could not get any higher and she excelled in everything she does. Said Mahes in a telephone interview with the Express. Mahes, a single parent, works as a sales supervisor for a distribution company in Aruka. Shania is her only child. They go on to say she said she and her daughter live with her mother, a pensioner, who uses some of her pension to contribute to Shania's education. They'd be painting a picture here for you, right? Mahes said that the results were released on Thursday and all the dreams and hopes were shattered. Quote, she came into the bedroom, locked the door, she's distraught. I had to make sure she was okay. She was always an A student in the school for graduation. She got all the awards, said Mahes. So you see where I'm going with this, right? there was one more part that really stood out to me. Oh, she got an A grade in chemistry in Cape 1. She got 4 distinctions in chemistry, physics, pure maths, and communications. And in Cape 2, she got all distinctions again in pure maths, physics, chemistry, and Caribbean studies. So clearly, this child excelled. She did a great job. I mean, we just had to watch out for the 4-year-olds coming down to derail the child life. But outside of that, this little girl do real good. Like the mother said, she couldn't do no better than that. But it's the funny thing with this equity, equality kind of thing, right? And that is where I have an issue with things like GATE. Because, in my opinion, if you're given a scholarship, which is a financial award, right? Because at the end of the day, the purpose of a scholarship is the government pays for you to go and pursue your further studies, which I find is a great thing. We've seen that since forever, right? But I put it like this. I don't think that this scholarship should be awarded to the person with the top marks alone. Pay him out, right? You should be rewarded if you have the best marks in the country. But the reward of a scholarship going to the best marks in the country, when that child who get the best marks in the country comes from a well-to-do family, it taking away an opportunity from somebody who might have come second, third, fourth, or fifth. Let's put it like that. Who couldn't afford to go anyway. Look at the trajectory of these 2 children, right? Let's assume that there were no scholarships in place. There's no way to pay for anybody, no matter how good you do. When you do good, we get a pat on the back, right? What do you think is the trajectory for the child who come from a wealthy family, who get the same results that Shania got, versus a child who come from a poor family who get the same results that Shania got? I would assume that one of them is going to go on to the best universities, get the best job opportunities, have the best networks when they come back from their studies and so on. It's clear. And the person who poorer, you might well get through with the university education, but it's going to be a real struggle for you. So while I'm saying that nothing will stop Shania, I think Shania will do well. Shania will persevere and get exactly what she had to get out of this life. But I'm putting it like this. If there are 100 Shanias, the probability that all 100 of them going through real low. You're going to have about 3 or 4 of them who put, regardless of what's put in front of them, they get through. But you're going to have others who did excellent and as good as you could possibly do. But because of lack of finances or lack of support, they're going to end up taking a job that they might be, distracting them from excelling at the next level, or just not bothering to go to the next level at all, getting a decent enough job that you could get with Cape passes, which of course is not a great job in the greater scheme of things, or a great income earning job in the greater scheme of things, because you ain't go forward with your education much further. And they get stuck in that position. And then when they get stuck in that position, life starts to happen. Living on a pension, or she starts to get sick now. Some of your money has to contribute to that. Money that could have gone towards your school. We know how life goes. I don't have to explain that, right? So this is where I find, for instance, if there's a prize that awarded for the people who do the best, give out the prizes based on merit. But if you're going to pay for people to go to school, pay for school based on what people need. So, like when I just got into UWI, right? They had just introduced dollar for dollar. As a matter of fact, when I went to UWI, they introduced dollar for dollar the year after. Like I was bad lucky. And I saw the change on campus when dollar for dollar was introduced. The campus could not hold the amount of students I had. My biggest memory of this, sorry for that, but my biggest memory for this is how the toilets used to run out of toilet paper every day. By lunchtime, no toilet on the campus had toilet paper. It's just because of the amount of people. It took the administration and the management of the campus time to catch up with the amount of new students that were coming in compared to the year before. I don't see how that could be a bad thing. But think about it this way. If you give everybody the same subsidy, so you tell everybody, listen, everybody getting the tertiary education paid for, what it does is make it the wealthy person now, their child, they take the money that they had to pay for the child anyway to go to school. They had put that in place anyhow. They take their money and they get the child a car, They give them the best access to everything, the best computers. And then the other person now who gets the same tuition paid, they're still struggling to come to school because they have to travel from far. They don't have all that money. They don't have access to the best technology. The transport is an issue. Where they live is an issue. How they eat is an issue. So I never understood this thing where you just give everybody carte blanche. And you know, the people who are against what I'm saying is come and say, so wait, I must get punished because I do well in life. No, you ain't getting punished. You did fine. Nobody else entitled to the government paying for nothing for you. So this notion of getting punished for things, it don't really exist because the thought of being punished for it means that you was entitled to it in the first place and somebody taking it away. Nobody ain't taking nothing from you. What I'm saying is some people need plenty more help than others. So I was glad that the Express run that story. It was a little bit different, if I could put it like that. Like, that is not the typical story that you see going viral or you see getting traction. But I was glad that it did. And I'm sure, I hope by now, a lot of people might have come forward to say, okay, we will do it, whether it's private or public sector, or the government might rethink its policy on how they issue in scholarships, or even just find the money to give her to go and pursue her school. Because if she could do that well in those subjects and be tops like that, that's somebody we need to invest in as a society, because that is the kind of youths that's going to make our society much, much better. So good luck to Shania. I'll follow it, and I'm pretty sure that within the coming days, we'll find out that she got the funding that she needed to go to school, and I'm sure she's going to continue to excel. Now, some more great news in terms of people getting what they deserve. I saw the family of George Floyd collecting $27 million from the state this week. Well, I feel good about that. Now, keep in mind that one of the first things I came on here to talk about really in starting this podcast was directly dealing with that BLM movement, that it wasn't born out of the George Floyd issue, but it really swole up and maybe became more of a Trinidadian issue with George Floyd. So there's nothing really that could bring that man back to his family, but to see them collect a settlement that making some sense, it's a good feeling. It's a small win in the greater scheme of things, but it's a win nonetheless. And I'm glad that they're starting to recognize. And maybe, you see, regardless of what has happened, we can't be losing people and then getting a settlement as to call it square. Those things will never be square until we realize that the authorities, those who in charge and in charge of developing the police force and so on, in the States in particular, I'm not sure we had the same issue here, but they had to realize that there's a certain amount of diversity training needed to sort of understand what is the plight of different people in different parts of the state, so that the whole approach, because as much as that was one of the worst I've ever seen, you can't tell me you're not seeing more and more like that on social media. Like, you know whose page always highlights these things? D.L. Hughley, comedian D.L. Hughley. He always highlights these types of issues, whether it's with police or with the way he calls them Karens and all that kind of thing. You know, some people just really still seeing black people as less. So thank God that that's the state do the right thing. I ain't even sure that 27 is the right number, but it sounds like plenty money and it should do well for the family going forward. But again, nothing replacing that guy. But before we go, I'll tell you one more thing I want to touch on, because it happened after last episode was wrapped up. So we deal with Harry and Meghan in the last episode, right? And I guess you know my feelings on that already. But there's one thing that came up that I can't help but bring back up this week. And that's your boy Piers Morgan storming off his own show, Good Morning Britain. Well, a former show. So he brought, they said from the beginning of the interview, I'm sure you'll see the clip by now, right? Just look for Piers Morgan storms off, you'll find it. He said that he brought, which the guy acknowledged as well, Alex Beresford, acknowledged that Piers was the one who brought him on the show to talk about the issue. And it would have been fresher because, I mean, this must be the Tuesday morning after they all saw the interview. And you know what's interesting? Alex started off talking about his own experiences with being dark skinned, well, being black really. But he was saying being lighter, he hears a lot of things that a darker person mightn't hear. Where, you know, and I find that's something that's happening in Trinidad a lot. So, in other words, like we have this mentality where we say, no, use one of the good ones. I hate when people tell me them kind of things. Don't come to me with that kind of stuff. So they're kind of more open with you than they were the others. So if you're a little more educated, so if you're in a group of people who dislike by another group, but you're more educated or you're lighter skinned or whatever the thing might be, or you like the same kind of music, whatever, some common denominator, you tend to find that you hear a lot from the next side. And I was glad Alex Beresford spoke about that, because he said, people tell him things about their feelings about black people, almost as if he's not exactly one. He's one, but he's different. He's more like us than he is like them. Plenty of them things in society, in Trinidad, we have it going on here. But in the end, he basically was telling Piers, listen, I know you had a personal relationship with Megan and you get cut off. Well, boy, that man he trip off and he just walk off, and within the 24 hours, he resigned from the show as a whole. And I find him hard to take in sometimes. I mean, the other day they had it might have been just after that same issue. They had a woman there, I can't remember the woman's name, now a black woman too, who talking about black issues with Piers Morgan. But oh God, boy, she was hard to listen to too, because she have no intention of letting him talk. And I'm sure she had prior experience with him, so she just came to, but she was not stopping, boy. I mean, as much as I mightn't like your point of view, but I want to, if we're going to talk about it, I'd rather stay quiet and listen to your point of view so I could understand where you're coming from. And we could disagree in the end, but you see this TV style of shouting over one another, I don't understand it at all. But Alex Beresford was the right man to bring it out, because when he asked him, Piers Morgan bust out, and I think you see the thing is, as men, right? No, talking to the fellas again, plenty talk to the men in this episode, right? But when you get blank from a woman, it's really not a nice thing. When you put your best foot forward, and especially when you see you start to feel like you're getting, we talking and thing going good, and then all of a sudden you get cut off. Like, I remember a time in the club, this was a club named Quad in Kingston. And I mean, them days a party, and any chance I get a party, and I'm hunting when I'm out there. And I remember seeing this woman in the club. Boy, if you see, she's nice like a pie. And I muster up the courage now, liquid or otherwise, to go and talk to this woman. That woman need to understand how hard that is to do, right? That is a real hard thing to do, to muster up that little thing and just come and say, hey, what's up? How you doing? Because women, Trinidadian women in particular, we like to call it making style, right? But it ain't easy to go up and talk to a woman who you never know. So I go on and I start a little small talk and think, no doubt my accent working for me too, because I'm not home. So, it's a Jamaican. Like, at another time I went in the club, I meet a girl. When I started to talk, the girl realized I was Trini. She from Trinidad too. She get disinterested one time. And she said, wait, you from Trinidad? Boy, that was in a conversation with me. And this is the greatest thing I ever see. But this girl, I talking to the girl and saying, it's a club rapport, you know what I mean? How much you could talk about over that music, and it's just a little flirty talk. And I offer her a drink, I buy the drink, she tasted it, you know what I mean? We talking. And then the friends say, let me go in the washroom. And they went in the washroom and things. So I started to get comfortable by the bar now. I'm taking my space now. So when she come back, I could be on. Listen, that girl come back. And I say, hey, listen, all the smile and the little kiki, that is it for that. That dead. So I say, but what's going on? I say, so she says, listen, I'm not in the mood right now. Sorry, but and I thinking, but what is this? And I said, but what happened? You're good, you're all right here. She said, yeah, I just, I just here to have a good time and think the girl go on into good time mode and leave me one side. Listen, it's not more stupid to feel than when you had to ease back up off that bar and bust back out and head back by your partners because it's salt. Ask for number, nothing. So you see, getting blank woman is not a nice thing. And Piers Morgan's story is that he said they meet up for drinks. They had a relationship, like a talking. They used to talk. They had a rapport. I don't want to say a relationship. But they meet up for drinks and stuff. And then he put her on a cab. And then he find out that the cab took her by Harry and them at the Buckingham Palace. Let me be real. You ain't getting back there. Sorry. The girl going by the whole royal family. That is it for you. But I always watch men, because it's like, if I had to draw a parallel, a real bad parallel, it's like when you're in a fete and you go and whine on people and you get blank. I find you just have to take your blanket, you just have to eat that. If whether you get, I would like you to blank me nicely, woman. Only in bong to embarrass we and them you could just hit with this shift. While it's had to turn all your whole self wrong and watch the man like if you have the audacity to, yeah, you have the audacity, yes, it's been a fat. It's happened with wine on people. You could just, you only have a gentle elbow, like not an elbow like you're trying to damage my elbow, like you just want to make space. You know what I mean? Hey, separate yourself from myself. You could give it that. Or, I mean, you could give it a turn around and watch too. You could do whatever you want, really, at the end of the day. Because I bill for blank. That ain't bothering me. You could blank me 100,000 times. That is nothing. You just had to roll with that and let her roll off, and it's like, hey. So I talk to the girl. When I see she moving strange, I talk a couple more times. But when she say, nah, I could. Boy, I put my tail between my leg and I head back across by them fellas. I say, boy, I thought I was in, but like I out. And that is it. So when you look at, just to use the term people like to use these days, the entitlement of some of our fellow brethren. And we see it all the time, fellas, we see this all the time. Like, the simplest thing, like long time when man used to suit woman and thing, and you suit and she and take you on, and then you tell her all kind of thing. Well, as ugly as your friend I was talking to. We used to real do them kind of things, and I always feel we evolve past certain things. Cause you don't see too much of that happening again, but I mean, Piers Morgan take it to a whole next level. It's looking like, so you salty and bad talking this woman for how much ever years this is now. Over just getting a blank. You need to come Trinidad and try to whine on people. Get some elbow. Get some people who turn around and stay in your face. Get people, partners are wrong and the girlfriends and things who go and laugh at you. You come Trinidad, you go and get immune to getting blank, because the hardest woman in the world to walk up to and talk to had to be Trinidadian woman. And in fact, you go start to learn to take blank and just keep it pushing. It's ain't that serious, and we ain't here to make nobody else feel uncomfortable. Everybody here for, if you really like a woman and you're going out, you're trying to go out to the woman and thing, you have to take your blank with grace, dog. That's just what it is. So I hope that this brings to a close that whole issue of Harry and Meghan and these folks. I kind of fed up with that already, and only be happy where Ole is. Only don't leave the monarchy and thing. I would start believing all the monarchy people when Ole get them back all the money and force them spend the rest of their life trying to get them to get Africa back the money and the Caribbean and India and thing. Until then, I didn't really believe only Harry and Meghan. But don't go and live all your life, man. If you're only thing, only one side, stop talking about the people. Move one side and keep it pushing. And I'm going to do just that. I'm going to keep it pushing out. It's also only next week.